Let's talk about fictional villains. Not the boring ones who twirl mustaches and fall into lava. No, we're talking about the ones who make you wonder, what if they actually won? The villains so intelligent, so terrifyingly calculated, that you almost start rooting for them, until you remember they did probably wipe you and everyone you know off the map without a second thought. This is the nightmare class of villains, the smartest masterminds in fiction. And trust me, some of them are playing chess on 10 different boards, while the rest of us are still struggling with checkers. First up, Light Yagami. Oh yes, Mr. Pretty Boy from Death Note. On paper, he's a high schooler. In reality, he's God with a notebook. He doesn't just kill criminals, he kills anyone who even breathes suspicion in his direction. You blink wrong, and Light is already writing your obituary in neat kanji. He orchestrates global mind games with the actual embodiment of death while munching on potato chips, like it's the Super Bowl. Light's genius isn't in brute force. It's in his absolute control of narrative. He doesn't just outthink his enemies. He rewrites the rules of morality to make himself look like the hero. You almost forget he is a tyrant until you realize he'd happily write your name for cutting in line at Starbucks. And when he falls, it is not because he has done it. It's because arrogance is the one thing you can fit into a Death Note margin. Now let's dial it back to Western media with Lex Luthor. Forget the giant robot suits and bald jokes. Lex's true weapon is his brain. The man looks at Superman, basically a walking sun god, and goes, "Yeah, I can take him." That's not insanity. That's confidence. Luthor operates like a Silicon Valley CEO, except instead of overpriced apps, he invests in weapons of mass destruction and philosophical monologues. He sees Superman not as a savior, but as an existential threat, a caped alien with the power to turn the world into a graveyard on a whim. And the scary part? He's not wrong. Luthor proves that with enough money, charisma, and calculated paranoia, you don't need heat vision to burn the world. You just need the right speech at the right time. You want to hate him, but a part of you thinks, yeah, maybe Bald Bezos has a point. Speaking of speeches, let's talk Ozymandias from Watchmen. If you ever wanted a villain who's basically, what if Elon Musk actually succeeded? Here he is. Adrian Veidt is the guy who looks at nuclear apocalypse and says, "Okay, hear me out. Alien squid monster." He doesn't stop the Cold War by diplomacy. No. He manufactures an eldritch horror to traumatize the planet into peace. He's not playing 4D chess. He's playing existential Jenga with human lives. And the terrifying part? It works. Millions die, but billions are saved. It's the most horrifying utilitarian equation ever scribbled in neon. The kind of plan that makes you go, wow, that's monstrous, but also efficient. He's the ultimate villain philosopher, except his thesis is written in blood and interdimensional calamari. Sliding back into anime, Johann Liebert from Monster. You know, Light Yagami plays God. Johann is the devil, but with a Harvard degree in manipulation. He doesn't need magic notebooks or super strength. He just whispers in your ear until you destroy yourself. He's not just smart. He's surgical. He knows exactly where to push, what to say, which memory to dig up, so that his victims unravel like faulty code. Johann turns people into puppets and then makes them cut their own strings. And unlike most villains, his endgame isn't money, or power, or even survival. It's pure nihilism. A black hole in human form. He's what happens when intelligence is weaponized into pure void. And honestly, he's scarier than any clown with a chainsaw. Now for the cosmic class nightmare. Thanos. Yes, the big purple philosopher. People meme him as Grape Hulk. But Thanos isn't dumb brute force. He's chillingly logical. He looks at the universe, sees overpopulation, and comes up with a plan. Not better farming. Not galactic recycling. Nope. Just snap half of existence into dust like old TikTok drafts. It's horrifyingly clean. And here's the kicker. He actually wins. For 5 whole years, Thanos rules the universe from beyond the grave, proving that sometimes the scariest villains aren't he the ones who fail spectacularly. They re the ones whose logic is airtight. Except, of course, for the fact that he could have just doubled resources with the same snap. But no, that would have been too merciful. Villains never take the patch notes. They go straight for the hard reset. You know who's even scarier? Hannibal Lecter. While most villains are busy blowing up cities, Hannibal is quietly eating your friends with a side of fava beans. He's refined, cultured, terrifyingly polite, and absolutely lethal. Hannibal isn't just intelligent. He's intimate with his intelligence. He studies people like fine wine, savoring every detail until he knows exactly how to break them. He doesn't need armies or gadgets, just his voice, his charm, and his culinary knife set. Hannibal reminds us that intelligence in villains doesn't have to be cosmic or bombastic. Sometimes it is just the soft voice in the dark corner of the room telling you exactly how you all'll die and making you want to thank him for it. And then there's Moriarty, the original criminal mastermind, forever locked in an intellectual deathmatch with Sherlock Holmes. What makes Moriarty terrifying isn't just his schemes. It is that he embodies the dark mirror of logic. Holmes solves crimes to restore order. Moriarty commits them to prove order is meaningless. He's the shadow twin, the proof that intelligence is inherently neutral. It's the morality behind it that makes the difference. In another life, he'd be a Nobel Prize-winning mathematician. Instead, he's the spider at the center of the web, tugging every string until society collapses in on itself. He's not flashy. He's not supernatural. He's just terrifyingly efficient. Of course, we can't skip Dr. Doom. The man wears a metal mask, rules a country, and somehow still finds time to study both magic and science. Doom is basically what happens when Tony Stark trades sarcasm for monarchy. He's arrogant, sure, but he backs it up. He's mastered technology, sorcery, politics, and he still finds time to insult Reed Richards. Doom is terrifying because he's both brilliant and petty. He doesn't just want power. He wants recognition. He wants the universe to know that he was right all along. And the scariest part? Sometimes he is. If Marvel ever let Doom actually win, the multiverse would run more efficiently than your local government. It just wouldn't be very democratic. Finally, let us end with someone who is less a villain and more a force of intellectual annihilation. The architect from The Matrix. This guy makes philosophy majors cry. He's the smug old man who reveals that the Matrix itself is just one giant math problem. Every choice, every rebellion, every Neo, it's all part of the equation. The architect isn't evil in the traditional sense. He doesn't want chaos, doesn't want power. He just wants balance. He wants the equation to solve itself, even if it means humanity is doomed to live in an endless cycle of fake freedom. He is the nightmare professor who gives you an F and then explains it as actually your fault for existing. He represents intelligence so vast it loses all connection to morality. And that, honestly, might be the scariest villain of them all. So what do we learn from these so-called geniuses of evil? Intelligence without compassion is just destruction with extra steps. Whether it's Light scribbling names, Luther scheming against gods, or Johann whispering nihilism into your ear, the lesson is always the same. The smartest villains aren't the ones who want to destroy you quickly. They're the ones who make you realize they might have a point. And that's the most dangerous trap of all, because once you start agreeing with them, you're already part of their plan.